Naruto, the ninja who picks up ultimate powers. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 31. Click. Natsuki walked next to Dasna, his face indifferent, not worried about what would happen next. He has no fear. The time soon came to the afternoon, and this way, nothing dangerous happened, and Dasna's tense state was also relaxed, and even the speed of travel was faster. When Xiaomu saw a puddle of water on the road from a distance, his eyes couldn't help but look slightly solemn. Huh? A light smile was outlined at the corner of Xiaomu's mouth, and he secretly said in his heart, the mob has appeared. Since receiving the mission of the Land of Waves, Natsuki has recalled the detailed plot of this mission. Ghost Brothers. This is the first mob to appear, nothing powerful. The important thing is that later, if the two of Momochi do not cut and Shuei Weiwei come together, with his strength, whether he can safely protect Tauri and not cut again, this is a problem. After thinking about it again, Natsuki felt that there was no problem. Because he was alone in the mission, naturally, his white eyes could be used, and at the same time, he also turned on some special powers of the Whirlpool Immortal Body. For example, the King Kong Blockade. Use it out, completely able to suppress some existence. Here I have to say that although Uzumaki Naruto is not a pure-blood Uzumaki family, after the Explosive Vortex Immortal Body card was used, what was given to Natsuki was pure blood and optimized. So strictly speaking, Xiaomu can also be regarded as the bloodline of the Vortex clan. King Kong blocked this unique skill, he was naturally able to use it. Boom. The right hand lightly rested on the Naotai knife, and the fingers gently tapped the hilt, and there was no movement on the surface, as if he could not notice the appearance of an enemy in front of him. Dasna didn't notice Natsuki's, and still walked quickly towards the front. The two quickly crossed the puddle of water and continued to walk towards the front. Crash. After the two passed by, two heads suddenly appeared in the water. Yikes. In an instant, these two figures directly killed Xiaomu, and the speed was extremely fast. Your life, we will take it. Xiaomu's face remained unchanged. He turned his head slightly, and a pair of blue eyes had already looked at the ghost brother who had killed him. It was obvious that the other party wanted to solve him first, and then solve Dasna. I saw it. Natsuki smiled slightly and said softly. After opening his eyes, Xiaomu clearly saw the location of the chakra dead hole on the two ghost brothers, just like those tiny red dots on the wooden pile. Very clear. Zheng. A knife light lit up, covering Lei Dun Chakra's Jitai Dao, like a poisonous snake, at an extremely tricky angle, biting on the death hole of the two ghost brothers, without a trace of emotion. Boom. The two ghost brothers who originally attacked, when their bodies were still in the air, suddenly trembled, and a strong heartbeat sounded in their bodies. Then the bodies of the two fell directly to the ground. Bang bang. It fell to the ground and died too much to die. Boom. Naota stabbed back into its sheath, and Natsuki indifferently exploded the two purple chakra cards that burst out of the bodies of the two ghost brothers. By the way, kill a ninja and you will inevitably drop cards. After putting away the card, Natsuki glanced at Dasna, who was only reacted at this moment, and said lightly, let's go. Uncle, there is still a long way to go to the Land of Waves. Hearing Natsuki's words, perhaps infected by Natsuki's overly calm state, Dasna's voice that was about to scream in panic was forced back. Looking at Natsuki walking in front, Dasna did not dare to hesitate and quickly followed. Little brother, thank you. After thanking him, Dasna looked like he wanted to say nothing. Looking at Dasna like this, Natsuki probably knew what he wanted to say, but Natsuki didn't care too much. Now Natsuki's mind is all on the next battle. He's looking forward to it. In the thick fog, Natsuki followed Dasna and walked towards the front. Neither spoke. Dasna is because of nervousness, while Natsuki is because he doesn't want to talk much. After walking for a while, the fog around him gradually dissipated a little, but Xiaomu's heart became more serious, and one hand was on the straight knife, as if it was loose and tight. Obviously, at this moment, Natsuki was already fully prepared for battle. Little brother, I'll be fine. Dasna's voice trembled a little, and it was clear that this silent environment at the moment gave him great pressure. Hearing Dasna's words, Natsuki smiled. Don't worry, with me, it will be fine. At this time, sulphone. A sound of breaking wind sounded, and a large knife slashed directly towards Dasna and Natsuki from the front. If it is cut, it can definitely cut off the waist of both Dasna and Natsuki. Choke. Pulling out the knife sharply, Natsuki faced the big knife that was cut over, and his face was serious. Roll your eyes. One knife flow, Juha. Directly opening his eyes, Natsuki accurately saw the attack trajectory of the big knife. Zhengong. The light of the knife and the spark lit up at the same time, and the big knife that Xiaomu did not change color and flew over, and it was hard to collide. The huge power was transmitted, and his steps couldn't help but take a step back, but in the next moment, he directly slammed this big knife out, fell to the side, and stuck it on the ground. Raising the Naotai knife in his hand, a hint of surprise flashed in Xiaomu's eyes. Not the slightest bit of damage. It seems that this knife left by the dead ghost old Do is a rare treasure knife. At the same time as the words fell, Natsuki's gaze fell on the big knife inserted on the ground. Decapitate the big knife. One of the 7 ninja knives in Wuin village, it can suck blood and repair itself, which is quite magical and mysterious. Swish. At the moment when Xiaomu raised his eyes, next to the decapitation knife, a bandaged man appeared, and a pair of eyes with a terrifying gaze looked at Xiaomu, and the wave of murderous aura on his body rolled in. The moment this terrifying killing intent came over, Datsuna's face next to Natsuki instantly turned pale. Xiaomu was not affected, but looked at this person with a curious face. Mist hidden ghost people, Peachland will not be cut again. Oh? Konoha's imps? Looking at Natsuki, Momochi's face was full of appreciation. You are very good, you can actually block the decapitation knife, you are a good genius. Can you hand over the old man behind you to me? In that case, I don't mind letting you live. Holding a Naota knife, Natsuki looked at Momochi and didn't cut again. Sounds like a good condition. After a pause, Natsuki grinned. But, I refuse. Episode 32, yes? Hearing Natsuki's answer, Momochi's face showed a color that was not surprising. So, with the decapitation knife in his hand, Momochi will strike directly if he doesn't cut it down. At this moment, Natsuki's hands were instantly sealed. Fire Dragon, Flame Bomb. Bang! The roaring terrifying fire dragon directly swallowed the path towards the Peachland. Fast. Permit. Fierce. This sudden attack made Momochi's face change abruptly. What? This little ghost. Swish. The sound of breaking wind sounded, and a figure appeared in front of Peachland's uncut body, with a mask on his face and his hands quickly sealed. Bing dun binji and tang wu. Click. In an instant, in the face of the fire dragon bombarded by Xiaomu, a wall of ice suddenly appeared around this person and the two whom Momochi no longer cut. Bang! The fire dragon and the ice wall collided directly and exploded violently. A heat wave dispersed, and Natsuki's face turned pale. Shui wu yue bai, it's out. From the perspective of the white eyes, he had long noticed that Shui Wei Bai was hiding on the side, but he didn't expect the other party to strike directly. With one enemy and two, Xiaomu did not have the slightest fear. When the smoke and dust of the explosion dispersed, the figures of Shui Wei Bai and Taoji no longer cut off unharmed appeared in Xiaomu's eyes. At this moment, Momochi's hand was already holding the decapitation knife and looking at Xiaomu. If you don't behead the lord, are you alright? In Shui Wei Bai's tone, there was some worry. While staring at Natsuki, Momochi said without chopping again, who told you to shoot? The attack just now can't hurt me. After all, he is an elite shinobi. Hearing this, Shui Wei Bai spoke. Sorry, don't cut the adults again. Momochi said without a deep groan, there won't be a next time. Looking at the interaction between the two, Natsuki shook his head and raised the Naotai knife in his hand. It seems that your communication is over, so next, let me send the two of you on your way. Assertive, powerful, Natsuki has absolute confidence in his strength. When the words fell, the atmosphere between the two sides became tense in an instant. Fire escape, how fireball technique. The hands were sealed, and the huge chakra in the body was directly mobilized, and Xiaomu opened his mouth, and a huge fireball with a diameter of 5 or 6 meters directly bombarded the two of them towards Momochi. Seeing this huge fireball, Momochi's face changed uncutly. Wow. The figures of the two flashed and left their original positions directly. Momochi's face was shocked, and he looked at Natsuki, who was still in place, and spoke. Is this little ghost a monster? Moisture. At the moment when Momochi's uncut voice fell, a piercing and sharp sound of thunder and lightning sounded. What? Turning his head sharply, Momochi saw Natsuki's left hand, rushing and condensing into a substantial thunder chakra. This is sting. Without waiting for Momochi to finish speaking, Natsuki's figure, as if teleporting, appeared in front of him. Raish. The left hand was as swift as lightning, and it went directly towards the heart hole of the Peachland. Poof. The fragile flesh, in the face of Ratchet's piercing power, did not have any obstruction. Xiaomu's left hand directly pierced Momochi's heart. Bang. With a roar, the uncut figures of Natsuki and Momochi fell from the air to the ground. A deep pit was smashed in the ground. Don't cut the adults again. Just fell on a tree. Shui Wei Bai saw this scene. The whole person turned into a light and shadow, quickly rushed to the position where Xiaomu and Momochi were no longer chopped, and the masks on their faces fell because of this. Raising his head, Natsuki looked at Shui Wei Bai who rushed towards him, and the essence flashed in his eyes. Ugh, Zheng. Facing the water without moon, Xiaomu's figure rushed out in an instant, and the straight knife that was still held in his right hand shot directly. Sting poof. The two figures instantly staggered without any obstacles. Yikes. The Jitai knife in his hand held a knife flower, and directly put the knife back into its sheath, and Xiaomu turned indifferently to look at Shui Wei Bai, who had not been completely killed, and walked towards the corpse of Momochi. In the end, the two fell together. 2 purple chakra cards? Receiving the chakra card that burst out from the bodies of the two of Momochi Zaibu and Shui Wei Bai, Natsuki had some pity in his heart. Ice escape blood boundary, it's quite good. Coming to Momochi's side and glancing at the huge decapitation knife, Natsuki took out a storage scroll from his ninja bag. Sealed. Placing the decapitation knife on the spread scroll, Natsuki made a seal, and with a puff of white smoke, put away the decapitation knife. Using the soil at will, he buried the corpse of the peachland and the water and moon whiteness into the ground. After doing all this, Natsuki looked at Dasna, who was dumbfounded on the side. "Uncle, it's safe, you can go." After speaking, Natsuki walked straight ahead. Dasna, who watched the whole process, understood at this moment that Natsuki, who protected himself, was strong. With a reassuring expression on his face, Dasna quickly followed Natsuki's figure. Night. In a room in Dasna's house, Natsuki sat on the windowsill with excitement in his eyes. System, fuse the chakra cards harvested today. As soon as Natsuki's voice fell, the sound of the system sounded. Fusion begins. Airplanes. A warm current flowed throughout Xiaomu's body, and the originally extremely large chakra once again increased a lot. A smile appeared on his face, and he was used to this situation. Next, it's the main meal. Xiaomu's tone was inexplicable, with an expectant look on his face, and he secretly said in his heart, "System, give me the chakra card that fuses Indra." On the way to come before, what if the plot changes, and Momochi doesn't cut the two again? So he didn't choose to integrate at that time, and now when he comes to Dana's house, it's okay. Fusion begins. Airplanes. The voice of the system fell, and a cool feeling spread throughout Natsuki's body. It's just that compared to the changes in his body, Xiaomu can obviously feel that around his eyes, the changes are the greatest. Most of Indra chakra is gathered in the acupuncture tunnels around his eyes. Faintly, Xiaomu felt that his white eyes had changed slightly, and this change is done subtly. Feeling comes and goes quickly. Opening his eyes again, Natsuki's face had a thoughtful color. Is this the beginning of evolution? Reincarnation eyes, I'm looking forward to it. His white eye saw more clearly, farther away. Presumably, it won't be long before you can get the power of the peak of the ninja world. Reincarnation Eye. Episode 33. The moon is dark and windy. After Natsuki fused all the cards, his eyes looked into the distance. Then next, let's end this mission quickly. Call. A breeze blew, and Natsuki's figure had disappeared on the windowsill, leaving only a leaf left. Quite a luxurious villa above the street lamp on the garden. Swish. Natsuki's figure appeared here. The indifferent gaze swept over the entire villa, and after shaking his head, Natsuki's figure disappeared directly, like a ghost, directly entering the villa, and the observation of the white eyes quickly allowed him to find the source of the threat of the mission target. Cardo. Looking at this short and fat guy, Natsuki shook his head. How fragile human life is. Zheng. Poof. The Naota knife in Natsuki's hand directly cut through Cardo's neck, and as if it did not appear, Natsuki's figure disappeared into this room again and left the villa. Although the mission is only to protect the target, not to assassinate, there are times when it is necessary to be more informal. He didn't break the rules of the ninja. The news of Cardo's death spread throughout the land of waves the next day. After the Dasna family learned the news, Natsuki stayed for another 2 days to make sure that Dasna would not be in any danger, and then set out directly on the journey back to Konoha. This sea-level task has been completed. When I came, it was not fast because of Dasna, and it took 2 days to reach the country of waves. If you go back, only Xiaomu is alone, and the speed is naturally many times happier than I don't know. After just 1 day, Natsuki returned to Konoha. Hokage building, among Hokage's offices. The above is the whole process of this mission. Natsuki looked at the 3 generations of Hokage who were smoking, his face calm. Just now, he reported the entire process of this mission to the 3 generations of Hokage, including the assassination of Cardo, and also told the 3 generations of Hokage in detail. Of course, he also explained why. One person wants to protect the whole family of Dasna. There are not enough people, so this method is chosen. Although this reason is a little pale, it is good that the 3 generations of Hokage did not care about a small Cardo in the end. After listening to Natsuki's report, the 3 generations of Hokage nodded. This time the task is that the village is unobserved. In terms of task remuneration, the village will make up for it. In addition, the level of this task will also give you a promotion to a B-level task. Are you satisfied? Friend. Looking at Natsuki with a smile, the 3 generations of Hokage were really satisfied with him. Hearing this, Natsuki nodded. Naruto-sama can arrange it anyway. By the way. From his ninja bag, he took out the scroll sealed with the decapitation knife, and Natsuki put it on the desk and said, "This is a decapitation knife. I brought it back, and I handed it over to the village to deal with." As for himself, this straight knife in his hand is enough. Moreover, Xiaomu can determine that this Jitai knife is definitely a rare treasure knife. Is that so? Taking the scroll, the 3 generations of Hokage had a satisfied smile on their faces. The village can't take advantage of you. I have an A-grade ninjutsu here, so I will give it to you. There were some surprises, but Natsuki took it anyway. Thank you, Naruto-sama. In fact, ninjutsu, or something, he no longer values it. After all, he is not lacking. But since you can get an A-level ninjutsu, why not? After seeing that Natsuki had accepted the ninjutsu, the 3rd generation of Hokage continued. Well, I see. Friend, give you a period of leave, this time, adjust your state well, understand? Raising his eyebrows, looking at the meaningful smile of the 3 generations of Hokage, Natsuki nodded. I see, then I quit. After that, Natsuki directly turned around and left the Hokage office. On the way home, Natsuki's footsteps were fast. This is the longest mission he has ever undertaken. 5 days in total. Natsuki's house. Pushing open the door and walking in, Natsuki shouted towards the house. I'm back. Soon, the figure of the mother appeared in the entrance, looking at Natsuki's face with surprise. Welcome back, friend. This time the mission, is it difficult? Hearing his mother's question, Natsuki shook his head. It's not difficult, it's just that it takes a lot of time, that's why I went out for so long. Taking Natsuki's knife and ninja bag, my mother bowed her head gently. Then you take a little rest first, I'll go put the bath water on you and take a good bath. Hearing this, Natsuki nodded. Thank you, Mom. Boom. Gently knocking on Natsuki's head, the mother spoke. Wait. Grinning, Natsuki enjoyed this warm interaction between mother and son, walked into the house and lay comfortably on the sofa. It feels so good to be home. The next day, early in the morning, Natsuki was waiting at the door of Hinata's house. When I returned to Konoha yesterday, it was already in the afternoon, so I was not able to meet Hinata. So early this morning, he came over. It didn't let Natsuki wait long. Hinata's figure came out of the house, and today she still has to do a task, so she will definitely go out. Hinata. When he saw Hinata, Natsuki waved his hand. Here. Hearing the familiar voice, Hinata was stunned for a moment, and then saw Natsuki's figure, and quickly ran over, with a look of joy. Xiaomu-kun, you're back. Directly reaching out and holding Hinata's little hand, Natsuki walked forward and spoke. Well, I came back yesterday afternoon, when you were supposed to be on a mission, so I didn't come to you. Sorry, Hinata. This time the mission, after such a long time. Shaking his head, Hinata spoke. Natsuki-kun's task is important. Looking at Hinata's small face, Natsuki looked gentle, rubbed her hair that had begun to grow long, and spoke. This time I went to the land of Debo, and I encountered several powerful enemies. Holding Hinata's hand, Natsuki told her all about this mission, including encountering the elite ninja Peachland no longer slashed. This kind of thing, although it is also a ninja secret, but it can also be told to Hinata, and this will also be his merit. The 3 generations of Hokage will definitely not hide it, and will help him publicize it and use it to earn prestige. How to say it? Natsuki vaguely sensed the meaning of the 3 generations of Hokage, and wanted to train him to become the next generation of Hokage. Hinata is probably investing in him for this reason. After all, if the person his daughter likes has this ability to become a Hokage, there is no need for him to beat the Mandarin duck. It's just that Natsuki knows that the 5th generation Hokage can't take his turn. After all, he is still very young at his current age. And the foundation is too shallow, so the 5th generation of Hokage can only be done by Tsunade. As for the 6th generation Hokage, I saw his mood. While talking to Hinata about the mission, the two had already arrived at the place where the 8th class gathered. Hinata, after you finish your mission, you can come to the 3rd training ground to find me. Holding Hinata's little hand, Natsuki spoke. Next, I won't go on a mission for a while, but practice at the number 3 training ground. Hearing this, Hinata nodded. I know, we disbanded, I'll come to find Natsuki-kun. After pinching Hinata's small face, Natsuki's figure flashed, and he had already left this side, not disturbing the 8th shift to carry out the task. Although Sunset Red doesn't say it, Natsuki doesn't have this face. Episode 34, Training Ground Number 3. Natsuki held a ninjutsu scroll in his hand and looked up. It turned out to be a spiral pill. The 3 generations of Hokage are really generous. Spiral pills are a ninjutsu, Natsuki also knows, and he can develop it himself, but he didn't do it. Because he is not bad at this ninjutsu, although the ninjutsu behind the spiral pill is almost S-level mysterious ninjutsu, the problem is that the development is a waste of time, and the anti-injury is really powerful. Don't learn the immortal mode, no whirlpool immortal body, and 9-tailed chakra protective body. Use it a few times, and the hand will be wasted. Closing the scroll, Natsuki spoke. Since you got it, let's still cultivate. The follow-up development skills of the spiral pill are still very powerful, and it is indeed quite suitable for him, who has a large amount of chakra, at least for now. Xiaomu does not have the 9-tailed chakra troublemaker in his body, and the accuracy of chakra's control is also at the elite level of upper ninja, so practicing the spiral pill, for him, is a few days at most. After returning to the village, Natsuki prepared a bag of balloons. Since he knew such an auxiliary tool, Xiaomu naturally would not let it go. During this time, let's develop the spiral pill well. Natsuki had a serious look on his face. It's not a big problem. Time flickered. A month passed. During this leisure period, Natsuki did not perform any more tasks, because according to the plot, the Chuunin exam will soon begin. The last time he made a B-grade mission, Natsuki, who earned a lot, used this time to help Hinata improve his strength for a month. Ground number 3 training ground. Bang bang. The two figures kept staggering, and Natsuki's face, with a calm color, kept dealing with Hinata's attack in front of him. With white eyes, Hinata's hands were like butterflies wearing flowers, and he struck a Taoist palm style. 2 palms. 8 palms. 64 palms. With a serious and sharp face, Hinata had already punched out all the 64 palms of the soft fist method and bagua in the blink of an eye. After the fight, Hinata's figure jerked back, opened the distance, and made a defensive stance. Gossip 64 palms. It belongs to the powerful physical technique in the jutsu method, and can consistently hit the 64 palms of the bagua, proving that Hinata's current strength is already a stable elite middle ninja level. Very powerful. Boom. The moment Hinata retreated, Natsuki's figure directly exploded into a cloud of white smoke and disappeared. Snap. After a tree, Natsuki clapped and walked out. Hinata, congratulations. Finally broke through. The gossip 64 palms are very powerful. Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata's face was filled with joy. Natsuki-kun. Opening his arms and holding Hinata into his arms, Natsuki had a smile on his face. Sure enough, Hinata is also a super powerful genius. The little face rubbed Natsuki's heart. Hinata did not speak, just quietly hugged Natsuki. The atmosphere between the two is very nice and quiet. It's just that this quiet atmosphere didn't last long. Swish. Yu Shiyan's figure instantly appeared on the side of the tree, and his face looked at Natsuki and Hinata with some embarrassment. Ahem, I don't seem to have come at the right time. Hearing the sudden sound, Hinata was startled and left Natsuki's arms directly, hiding behind Natsuki. Nephrite left his arms. Xiaomu had some regrets to smash the bar and smash his mouth, and looked at Yu Shiyan. Shinobu Yujutsu, is there something wrong? Yu Shiyan was also a little embarrassed, but when it came to business, it was a serious face. Friend, I came to send you the application form for the Chuunin exam. In 5 days, the Chuunin exam will begin. If you decide to take this Chuunin exam, fill it out, and go to the ninja school in 5 days. While speaking, Yu Shiyan handed a folded application form to Natsuki. Then, I won't bother you too. When the words fell, Yu Shiyan left directly in an instant. Disturbing the dating of people's little couples, she is a little embarrassed. Looking at the application form for the Chuunin exam in his hand, Natsuki's eyes flashed. Is the Chuunin exam coming? After Yujutsu Shiyan left, Hinata, who came out from behind Natsuki, looked at the Chuunin exam in his hand with some curiosity. Smiling slightly, reaching out and rubbing Hinata's little head, Natsuki spoke. Tomorrow, Teacher Han should inform the 8th class. Does Hinata want to take this Shinobi exam? Hearing this, Hinata nodded. If Natsuki-kun wants to participate, I will also participate. Scratching Hinata's little chung's nose, Natsuki spoke. Well, participate together, become a middle ninja together. Soon, the time came to the night before the Chuunin exam. In the bedroom, Natsuki looked thoughtful. The Chuunin exam, Orochimaru, Konoha's collapse plan, and finally, with a bright color in his eyes, Natsuki spoke. The original Hokage, the wooden dun between the 1,000-hand pillars. If he can get this, his strength will go further. Of course, the possibility of Mu Dun bursting out is not high. Now that the reincarnation eye is already pregnant, Xiaomu's need for Mu Dun is not so strong. I am fortunate to gain it, but I am lucky to lose my life. The calm mentality made Xiaomu not have too strong obsession. Anyway, the Zonin exam will be an opportunity for him to make a big profit, and perhaps, he will be able to successfully break through to the shadow level in this Zonin exam. To be precise, it should be in Konoha's collapse plan, because if you kill, you will give out cards. This time, so many enemies appeared in the Zonin exam, and with his strength, it was completely the place to harvest people's heads. After stacking up, he must have stacked his ninja illusion 3-dimensional attributes to a certain height, and then reached the shadow level. Lying on the bed, Natsuki closed his eyes, looking forward to the next day. The next day, early in the morning, after making sufficient preparations, Natsuki left the house. As soon as I arrived at the school, I met the 8th class, which had already been assembled. Natsuki-kun, you're here. Hinata came to Natsuki's side very obediently and looked at him. Reaching out and taking Hinata's small hand, Natsuki had a smile on his face. Let's go. Let's go to the exam room. While speaking, Natsuki had already walked towards the inside of the school. If you perceive it a little, you can find that there are no students in the ninja school at this moment, only the shinobi who took the exam, and the dark part of Konoha that has been hidden in the shadows. As soon as I walked in, I found that a large number of lower shinobi were blocked at the entrance by 2 middle shinobi. What's wrong with this? Inuzuka looked puzzled and asked. Shino pushed her glasses and said, it's magic. The entrance has been spelled. Hearing this, Hinata looked at Natsuki with an inquiring look in her eyes. Natsuki squeezed Hinata's small hand, just glanced at the situation here, and then spoke. Don't worry, you don't need to be in the limelight, someone will soon unlock this little illusion. Episode 35. Although his level of illusion is not very good, at least such a small illusion cannot stop him. It's just that now with Hinata, there is no need to be in the limelight. Anyway, someone will soon go to the limelight. Natsuki was standing here, chatting with Hinata and the three, while paying attention to the surrounding situation. Whether there was a card drop, directly pick it up. Accumulate into a lot, and those who come will not refuse. It didn't take long for the 7th shift, which had not been seen for some time, to arrive. Uchiha Sasuke pointed out the illusion, then Naka Shinobu moved, and finally Shaoli with thick eyebrows and other farces happened. all happened one after another. Hinata Ninji. Natsuki's gaze did not care about the farce, but directly looked at Hinata Ninji in the third class in the crowd. It's a bit of a hassle. In his memory, this time in the Chuunin exam, Hinata was likely to be seriously injured by Hinata Ninji. Thinking of Hinata's injury, Natsuki's brows couldn't help but wrinkle, and at the same time a chill flashed on his body. Only this is absolutely not allowed to happen. If Hinata versus Hinata Ninji were still in the third qualifier, Natsuki would definitely not sit idly by and watch Hinata Ninji hit Hinata hard, even if he was the future eldest brother. It's right. What's wrong? Natsuki-kun. Hinata noticed the slightest change in Natsuki, and asked with some concern, is something wrong? Shaking his head, Natsuki spoke. Nothing. Let's go into the examination room, the farce here has nothing to do with us. Of course, he couldn't tell Hinata that just now in his heart, he was calculating how to hammer Hinata Ninji, right? Led by Natsuki, Hinata obediently followed him into the examination room, and after the oil girl Shino and Inuzuka looked at each other, they also followed. Dog food is always full. Went up to the third floor. Without going far, the four of Xiaomu met three familiar people, Kakashi, Asma, and Sunset Red. Boom. Seeing the four of Natsuki, a smile appeared on Sunset Red's face. Coming? Friend Kun. Looking at the Sunset Red, Xiaomu smiled slightly. Well, Naruto-sama said that this joint Chuunin exam is an opportunity for me to perform well, so let's just take it casually. After speaking, Natsuki turned to Hinata and spoke. Hinata, Teacher Hong should have something to order you, I went first. Hinata nodded slightly. Smiling, Natsuki turned his head and nodded to Kakashi and Asma, and then walked directly into the examination room, without dragging the mud and water, looking very confident. Watching Natsuki enter, Kakashi couldn't help but sigh with emotion. It's worthy of being the chief student all along. His words have surpassed his peers too much. Asma nodded in approval. Well, Natsuki, quite a powerful child. Hinata, who was standing on the side, heard the evaluation of Natsuki by the two upper shinobi, and was in a good mood. It is worthy of Natsuki-kun. Walking into the classroom, Natsuki's gaze turned around among everyone here. There are a lot of familiar faces. The trio of Iai Luo of Sand Hidden Village, the three cannon fodder of Yin Ninja Village, and so on. Natsuki came in alone without causing the slightest fluctuation. Even the unstable factor of Ai Luo did not put too much attention on Natsuki. After glancing at the situation in the classroom, Natsuki walked directly to his position, inconspicuous, in a corner. I think it was specially arranged for him to be here, which is convenient for observation. After a short while, the three Hinata also came in, and not as many things as in the original book happened, and after the three of them came in, they found their place and sat down. After Natsuki and Hinata gave each other's eyes, their gaze fell on the other candidates in this examination room. One card after another, constantly falling to the ground, was picked up by Natsuki. The level is not high, at most it is a cyan card. Just as Natsuki waited idly, shoo. Purple cards have been detected to have fallen within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? The sound of the system suddenly sounded, making Xiaomu slightly stunned. His gaze turned to the corner where the purple card was, and he saw a person he hadn't noticed just now. Medicine Master's pocket. Natsuki's gaze just glanced at it and took it back, but there was some surprise in his heart. I almost forgot about this guy. Pick it up. Successfully picked up, obtained the purple palm cactus card, has been stored. A purple medical ninjutsu card, not bad. It's just that at this moment, Xiaomu's attention is on the body of the medicine master. Regardless of the stance, the pharmacist is indeed a talent. This guy, by the time of the Fourth Ninja World War, is also a middle-level boss existence. If you have a plan, you might as well kill the medicine master directly. After all, Natsuki is not looking forward to the arrival of the Fourth Ninja World War at all, because it represents many unknown factors. Of course, he won't be afraid. After putting away all the cards, Natsuki began to close his eyes. This next plot, in his heart, knows it well. Naturally, I don't think there is anything to see. Not long after the arrival of the 8th class, the rest of the Xiaoqiang classes also came. Class 7, 10. Since graduation, a long-lost reunion, of course, everyone is chatting happily. Except for Natsuki, who was sitting in the corner, and Hinata, who was quiet, the rest of the 8 small Chang chatted happily. This naturally caused dissatisfaction among the candidates in the examination room. Immediately afterwards, as a super spy, the medicine master pocket contacted 8 Xiaoqiang and sold the intelligence information card in his hand. This caught Natsuki's attention. Because of his intelligence, the medicine master pocket is also exactly the same, and there is even a B-level mission he performed a month ago, killing the defecting elite of the Mist Hidden Village, no longer slashing and no water and no moon white. Although I expected it, the intelligence work of this guy in the medicine master is really powerful. Watching things happen, Xiaomu sighed in his heart. It's a talent. After watching for a while, Natsuki closed his eyes again and waited for the exam to begin. At the same time, I began to seriously consider one thing. In the third session of the joint Chuunin exam this time, the Konoha collapse plan broke out, and the 3 generations of Hokage will die in battle. Then in front of Natsuki, for the 3 generations of Hokage, there are 2 choices, to save or not to save. To be honest, these days, he is more entangled. After finally groaning for a long time, Natsuki's gaze looked out the window, above the fire shadow rock in the distance. For a long time, Xiaomu sighed slightly in his heart and said, "The 3-dimensional curtain is the best choice for me." Episode 36, 3 generations of Hokage, already coming. Now the 3 generations of Hokage, who are already in their twilight years, are no longer the shinobi of their youth. It is precisely because of this that his reign was quite good when Natsuki was a student, and now that Natsuki has officially become a ninja and is active in the ninja world, it is not very suitable. After all, the poisonous snake in Konoha is too vicious. What is needed is a strong dragon to suppress it, and the 3 generations of Hokage who are now in their twilight years will definitely not be a strong dragon. The future 5 generations of Hokage, Tsunade, is Natsuki's best choice. Sorry. Natsuki withdrew his gaze and said in his heart, 3 generations of Hokage die fighting for Konoha. This is your best destination. In fact, Orochimaru made a plan for Konoha's collapse, and it didn't give the 3 generations of Hokage a reason to die in a glorious battle. A generation of ninja dying of old age? Speaking of which, it is also a different kind of sadness. Having made up his mind in his heart, Natsuki completely relaxed. After all, this choice is the most in his own interests, and Natsuki's choice is understandable. From the beginning, Natsuki didn't consider himself a good person. His good is only for those close to him. Raising his head, Xiaomu looked at the exchange between the medicine master pocket and a few xiaoqiang, with an expression of watching a play. Yakushi is a qualified director. After presenting all the information, Yakushi provoked the 3 dragon set characters of Oto Ninja Village with words, and then was put down by a move, showing his weakness, making people look at him and shift. Immediately afterwards, the fierce-scalped Mori Nobiki appeared brightly and suppressed the audience as an examiner. It's kind of interesting. Natsuki's gaze has always been on the medicine master's body, and his eyes seemed to be smiling, looking at him. Sensing Natsuki's gaze, Yakushi also turned his head to look at Natsuki, and when he discovered Natsuki's identity, Yakushi smiled humbly and looked at the examiner Moriyabiki with a serious expression. Natsuki also withdrew his gaze and looked at Moriyabiki, listening to the rules of the examination room. The moment Natsuki's gaze was withdrawn, the medicine master's face showed a trace of solemnity, and he was very sure. 9 times out of 10, his identity was recognized by Xiaomu. This how can it be? Pushing the glasses, the medicine man frowned, a little disbelieving. His plan and disguise should be perfect. But now is not the time to take care of Natsuki, now is more important to keep an eye on Sasuke Uchiha. In the case of the people in the examination room, each with their own thoughts, the first written exam has officially begun. This topic, G. After getting the test paper, Natsuki glanced at the various ghost beast questions on it, and couldn't help but be speechless. It's better to do it. After all, in the name of a super student, Xiaomu will not hand over a white roll, although handing over a white paper is the easiest and best answer. But these questions are not the kind that cannot be solved. It didn't take long for Natsuki's test paper to be filled with standard answers. There is no cheating at all, which is completely done by your own real academic ability. After writing, he did not hide his answer, and Natsuki observed it all like this. Clumsy cheating methods, there are really too many. Natsuki glanced at Hinata and found that she was burying her head in a roll, a proper student. Don't worry about Hinata's problem, the 3 people in the 8th class are all good. Yamanaka Ino of the 10th class seems to have begun to make small movements. The only one who was a little unlucky was Naruto Uzumaki of the 7th class. Looking at Naruto Uzumaki's restless look, Natsuki wordlessly raised his forehead. Without the 10th question, the 7th class is in the first round, and it has to be eliminated. After watching it for a while, Xiaomu felt somewhat uninteresting, not to mention the eliminated candidates. Even among the candidates who remained, there were many cheating methods that were too clumsy in Xiaomu's opinion. The meaning of this exam is actually to test the ability to collect intelligence. It's just an exam at the level of middle ninja. As long as the examiner feels that it can be seen, that's fine. After about an hour, everything that should be eliminated will be eliminated. If it cannot be eliminated, there is no need to continue to test. When the time was ripe, Mori Hibiki began his performance, using the psychological method of dark torture, and began the crucial 10th question announcement. Natsuki, who was sitting firmly on the fishing platform, watched quietly like this. Soon, most people wavered, just as Natsuki remembered. Naruto Uzumaki stood up and began a motivational speech against the tremendous mental pressure created by Mori Hibiki. Almost at the same time as Naruto Uzumaki's voice fell, Natsuki felt a silent infectious force, rendering the entire examination room. Chakra of Azuras. With solemn eyes, Natsuki looked at Naruto Uzumaki's back. This kind of infectiousness is really incomparable. At this time, shoo. Orange card drops have been detected within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? Ouch. Natsuki's pupils shrank, and he roared wildly in his heart. Groove. The miracle light is flashing again? I'll go. Lao Tzu is afraid that he was smashed in the face by the fat of Lady Luck today? There were no waves on the surface, and Natsuki, who was roaring madly in his heart, said excitedly, "Pick. It must be picked up. This orange card is either Azura Chakra or Nine Tails. Both are what Natsuki quite wants. Successfully picked up, obtained the orange Azura Chakra card, has been stored. Is it Azura Chakra?" Natsuki said in his heart. Actually, the words of the Nine Tails are even better. If he has the 9 tails, it means that he definitely does not lack chakra, and he can also open the 9 Lamas mode. The golden body hangs the entire ninja world, and if he is waiting for his reincarnation I evolution to be completed, the 9 Lamas mode plus the reincarnation I mode. There are only 2 words to describe Natsuki in that state. Invincibility. But the contented are always happy. Although I didn't get the 9 tails, Azura Chakra's words were already great. The huge vitality brought by the extreme Yongdun, coupled with his vortex immortal human body, if he can get the Mudun blood succession limit after this, he will be an enhanced version of the thousand-hand pillar. While Natsuki was checking his harvest, Mori Hibiki's explanation was over. Turning his gaze to the window, Natsuki said indifferently, "Here it comes." Boom. The window was directly broken, and a black cloth was hung up by 2 kunai, covering the main examiner of the first session, Mori Hibiki, wearing a trench coat, wearing a fishnet t-shirt inside, and a rather bold image of Mitarashi red beans. He directly appeared in the reluctance of all the candidates, making everyone look confused. Natsuki looked at the explosive Mitarashi red beans, and couldn't help but be curious. How exactly do you have to eat to make her fat like that? When imagining the future 7th generation of Hokage, Mitarashi red beans will look like. Natsuki shuddered. Episode 37. Although the appearance of Mitarashi red beans is speechless, the message that should be conveyed is still in place. After completing this, Natsuki waited for the candidates and left the classroom. After saying hello to the other Xiaoqiang, Natsuki sent Hinata home, and the others did not come to disturb him. Walking on the road, Natsuki recalled the incident of the second session of the joint middle ninja exam and spoke. "Hinata, tomorrow's second exam, there are several opponents, you must pay attention." Hearing this, Hinata looked at Natsuki with a serious face. "A strong enemy?" Natsuki nodded. "A guy in Shine Village, with a big gourd on his back. When you encounter him, you must avoid it. An adult woman in Chowing Village must also dodge, and the medicine master who approached you." After a pause, Natsuki continued. "I love Luo in Shine Village. I am a human pillar power, strong and love to kill. That woman from Chowing Village, it's a shadow-level powerhouse. As for the medicine master, it also has the strength of elite shinobi, which is too dangerous for you." Hinata heard this, and nodded with a solemn face. "I know." She also didn't ask Natsuki why she knew so much. Hinata had an absolute and blind trust in Natsuki. Holding Hinata's little hand, Natsuki spoke. "Don't worry. After entering the examination room tomorrow, I will use the fastest speed to go to you." Leaving Hinata and their 8th class alone, Natsuki was still worried. This exam hides the dragon and crouching tiger. For the average ninja, it is quite unfriendly. Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata's face showed a sweet smile. "Well, I believe Natsuki-kun." When the two were chatting, they had already come to the land of the Hyuga clan, and Natsuki glanced at this huge Hyuga clan land, with some emotion in his eyes. The wealthy family is worthy of being a wealthy family. "Hinata, see you tomorrow." After rubbing Hinata's little head, Natsuki turned and walked towards the house. Hinata had a smile on her face. "See you tomorrow, Natsuki-kun." Hinata's words and deeds reflect her cultivation and character, and she is a model for everyone's beauty. Early the next morning, Natsuki dressed neatly, brought a ninja bag and a sword, glanced at his image, and ruffled his hair. "Very handsome, friend." With a smile on her face, her mother looked at Natsuki's stinky appearance and spoke. His face froze, and the embarrassed Natsuki forced himself to be serious. "Mom, I'm out." The mother nodded with a smile. "Well, come back early." Waving his hand, Natsuki went out with a confident look. Last night, I probably told my mother about the progress of this second exam. But Natsuki did not plan to stay in the forest of death for 5 days. With his personality, staying there for 5 days, I am afraid that other candidates will not want to pass the second exam. Because of Natsuki's knife, I can't help it. And according to Natsuki's plan, today's second exam will most likely not meet a strong opponent. Shaking leisurely, Natsuki came to the forest of death alone. After Hinata and the 2 of the 8th class gathered, they arrived first. Even if it was him, he could not occupy Hinata's time too much, and the appropriate distance was quite a good thing for the two. Although he was not in love in his previous life, Natsuki is a master of theory. Giving some space and keeping some distance is very important in husband and wife life. "Yo, friend, are you coming?" As soon as Natsuki arrived here, Naruto Uzumaki came directly to Natsuki's body. "You fellow, it's so late. Hinata has already come over." After Naruto Uzumaki came over, the 2 people from the 7th class, Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno, also walked over and said hello. Natsuki's gaze wandered around the 3 of them, and finally fell on Sasuke Uchiha. "Uchiha-san, you've become stronger. It really got stronger." Uchiha Sasuke's current strength should be the level of middle ninja, or even elite middle ninja. At this time, a double hook jade, a single hook jade riding wheel eye has been opened. After going in a while, I encountered the big snake pill, and after being severely abused, it's the eyes of the double hook jade riding wheel eyes. Humph. It's not like I didn't do nothing. Hearing Natsuki's words, Uchiha Sasuke had a hint of arrogance on his face and spoke. And you guy, you are improving faster than me. When he said this, there was even a hint of despair in Uchiha Sasuke's tone. It's been 6 years. He gritted his teeth and frantically chased Xiaomu for 6 years. At the beginning, I could barely see Natsuki's back, but now, I can't even touch the shadow, and this gap has to be obeyed even with the pride of Sasuke Uchiha. When a person is a little stronger than you will be very unconvinced, and when a person is 10 times stronger than you will still not be convinced. But when you find yourself on the ground and that person is sitting on top of the frost, you won't be unconvinced, because it's not a dimension at all. At this time, friend, are you finally here? The three of Nara Shikamaru from the 10th class walked directly over and stood beside Natsuki. Yamanaka Ino's face was filled with doubt. Friend, where is Hinata? You didn't even come with Hinata? Hearing this, Natsuki smiled and looked to the side. Hinata is here. While speaking, the 8th class on the side had already walked towards the side, and Hinata had already quickly come to Natsuki's side. Natsuki-kun. Natsuki rubbed Hinata's little head dotingly and spoke. Hinata. Around the two of them, there was a sweet smell of dog food, which made Xiaoqiang present twitch at the corner of his eyes. Especially Sasuke Uchiha, there are some doubts about life. Treat a man who is addicted to falling in love with a pet girlfriend as an opponent. Is there something wrong with his consciousness? In this way, is there really no problem? The corner of his mouth twitched, and Sasuke Uchiha turned his head, not wanting to see Natsuki like this. Toothache. After chatting for a while, Natsuki glanced at everyone and spoke. Speaking of which, this should be the first time we have gathered since graduation, right? Hearing Natsuki's words, everyone nodded. Truly. After graduation, everyone was busy with their own tasks and had almost no chance of meeting. Looking at everyone, Natsuki spoke. Then after this exam, let's get together. I treat you. Hearing Xiaomu's words, Xiaoqiang of the 3 classes all brightened his eyes. Good. The core of this small group is Natsuki, and for his invitation, everyone naturally will not refuse, even Uchiha Sasuke, who nodded his head. Seeing everyone, Natsuki smiled with satisfaction. It is also necessary to contact the feelings of the little strongmen. Episode 38. After making an agreement with Jiao Xiaoqiang for dinner, everyone dispersed. With so many candidates here, if they get together, it's really too eye-catching. In particular, among these candidates, there are obviously good strengths. Looking at the many candidates, Xiaomu looked indifferent. Among them, there are many strong people. I love Luo, the medicine master, and the big snake pill that has been dressed up as a woman at the moment, Ant Snake. Did not pay too much attention to the big snake pill. With his current strength, against the big snake pill, the probability is to kneel. Of course, running will definitely be able to run, but the battle will not be too easy. Standing in front of the gate of the entrance to the Forest of Death, Mitarashi Red Bean looked at the group of examinees and waved his hand. Everyone has arrived. Then there is a pre-exam explanation, and all of them are for me. Drawing everyone's attention, Mitarashi Azuki spoke. Behind me is the examination room for the second exam, the 44th training ground in Konoha alias. With a sympathetic smile, Mitarashi Red Bean spoke. Forest of Death. With the words of Mitarashi Red Beans, several unknown beast roars came out of the Forest of Death, which instantly put great pressure on the examinees present, and the scene was very quiet for a while. It's just that he passed the first exam by cheating, and Naruto Uzumaki's self-confidence at this moment can be said to be very explosive. For Mitarashi's words about Azuki Beans, scoff, and even imitate them without fate, and then rightfully educated by Mitarashi Azuki Beans. Immediately afterwards, Natsuki saw the big snake pill move, and with a little killing intent, he communicated with Mitarashi Red Bean. A unique meeting between master and apprentice. Natsuki's face showed a hint of amusement. The great snake pill's 1000-layer routine for apprentices? Kind of interesting. It's just that these candidates can only smile for the time being. When Mitarashi Azuki explained the rules for passing this exam and came up with the life and death form, many people realized that this time it was really not a joke. This exam, it really kills. Xiaomu received a death agreement with an indifferent face, and after just a little glance, he signed his name directly, and then quietly waited for the start of the exam. Those who have signed the death agreement, come here to get the scroll. Glancing at the audience, Mitarashi Azuki said loudly, move faster, officially start the exam at 12 o'clock at noon, after this point in time, even if you automatically abstain. Hearing this, Natsuki smiled slightly and glanced at Hinata next to him. Hinata, you don't need to be too conspicuous in your 8th class, I'll go first. Hinata nodded obediently. Natsuki-kun, be careful. Hearing this, Natsuki bowed his head lightly and walked straight towards the small tent with the scroll. Mitarashi Azuki stood next to the tent and saw Natsuki coming over with a curious look on his face. Natsuki smiled kindly at her, then exchanged a heavenly scroll, put it in his ninja bag, and left the main gate under the leadership of a Naka ninja. It didn't take long for Natsuki to come to an entrance. Entrance 11? Glancing at his entrance number, a smile appeared on Natsuki's face. It's very close to the 7th class, and Hinata, and them, it's also very close. It's quite a wonderful entrance. Quietly waiting for the time to come, Natsuki pulled out his jitai knife, and the sharp cold light on it made people's skin feel cold and squish, gently wiping the blade. Natsuki looked at the knife. There is no wear and tear at all. After following him, after using it for so long, this knife is still as sharp as at the beginning, without a little feeling of wear, which is enough to prove that the quality of this knife is definitely upper. Could it be the grass pheasant sword? Natsuki had some doubts in his heart, looked at the Nautai knife in his hand, and smiled. It's quite possible. Click. Putting away the knife, Natsuki glanced at the sky and stood up. The time is almost up. Ready to get started? After 2 minutes, Naka Shinobu, who came with Natsuki, directly opened the 11th gate and said to Natsuki, "You can go in." With a slight smile, Natsuki nodded and walked into the forest of death. He was not in a hurry, and after a while, he disappeared into the sight of Nakanin, who led him over. At the same time, the other ninjas who entered the forest of death quickly entered the forest of death. Walking into the forest, Natsuki glanced at the dead forest without much sunlight. Then, it's time to start searching for targets. The huge chakra on his body moved, and Natsuki raised his hand to make a seal. Kagura Shinkai. Airplanes. The existence that belongs to the Uzumaki clan with strong enough perception to be able to open the strongest detection ninjutsu in the ninja world, even if the search range of the white eye is 1 level weaker than Kagura's hard eye. This technique was accidentally activated by Natsuki after Natsuki fused Azura chakra last night. Although he is not very proficient, it is also more useful to use here than his white eyes in an evolutionary state. Moreover, before the white eye had completely evolved into the reincarnation eye, he did not want to use this whole card nature power. The Kagura hard eye that was opened last night, for Natsuki, just right. The huge perception directly shrouded the entire death forest. One after another, chakra breath appeared directly in Xiaomu's perception. This chakra, is it Naruto and I arrow? Opening his eyes, Natsuki's face was colored with thought. What a huge chakra. In the entire forest of death, in addition to his accident, there are 3 extremely large chakras. One belongs to Naruto Uzumaki, Natsuki is very familiar, and the other is similar in nature to Naruto. Naturally another person pillar force, I love Luo. Needless to say, the last strand is naturally a big snake pill. It's none of my business. Sensing that the big snake pill was rapidly approaching the 7th class, Natsuki shook his head, and then went directly in the direction where the 3 Hinata were. Natsuki now has little chance of winning against the great snake pill, so there is no need to ask for abuse. For the sake of 1 or 2 purple cards, it's not worth it. Moreover, the ninjutsu on the big snake pill, to be honest, Natsuki didn't have any thoughts at all. The great snake flow ninjutsu gives a look it's hard to put into words. Swish. The figure flashed, and Natsuki's figure quickly approached the chakra of Hinata's 3. The 3 Hinata in the perception have already fought with people at this moment. Episode 39. Snap. 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 3 consecutive bodies fell to the ground, and on their bodies, huge blood-sucking insects were frantically sucking their blood. The 3 people of the 8th class were standing not far away, and at this moment, they had already obtained a pair of heaven and earth scrolls in their hands. What a blessing! A smile appeared on Inuzuka's face, and he spoke. It's just beginning, we have gathered 2 scrolls, and then we only need to rush to the central tower within the specified time. Even if we pass this exam, the accident is very simple. Swish. At this moment, Xiaomu's figure suddenly appeared in front of the 3. Natsuki-kun. Hinata saw Natsuki appear, with a hint of surprise on his face. You're coming. Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl, who were originally a little nervous, both relaxed and spoke. Friend, you guy, it's really fast. Natsuki's gaze glanced at the treasure-giving boy next to him, and he couldn't help but be a little speechless. It was done so easily, and the strength of the 8th class was still very good, if not a matter of presence. Turning his head, Natsuki looked at Hinata 3. Are you done collecting your scrolls? Hinata nodded directly and spoke. Well, it's already collected. Hearing this, Natsuki smiled and spoke. Then let's go. Go to the central tower. You don't plan to stay in this forest for these 5 days, do you? Natsuki said this to the oil girl Shino and Inuzuka, because Hinata's words will definitely listen to him. Recalling the environment in this forest, Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl shook their heads directly. The ghost wants to stay here for 5 days. With a smile, Natsuki spoke. Then keep up. Swish. As soon as his figure moved, Natsuki jumped directly onto the tree and headed in the direction of the central tower, and at the same time a huge perception emanated, and he also needed to find the scroll, so it was natural that he needed to search for other teams. Is this fate? In the midst of perception, I love Luo's huge chakra, appearing directly in front of him. Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata's face was puzzled. What's wrong? Natsuki-kun. Hearing this, Natsuki grinned and spoke. Nothing. It's just that my scroll has been delivered to the door. Although I still don't know if the scroll in their hands is the scroll of the earth, it doesn't matter, there is no problem if you grab it. As for whether you can win the fight or not, Natsuki has never been too sure of a battle. Even if AI Luo releases the Shizuru, Natsuki will not have any fear. Really, when he King Kong blockade is a joke? That was a terrifying sealing technique that even the Nine Tails could suppress fiercely. Hinata, yeah, Shino. Natsuki's face was serious, and he spoke. You guys avoid some later, the strength of the opponent is quite strong. Hearing this, the three members of the 8th class answered at the same time. Walk in the forest of death. Temari and Kankuro both looked at Iroh with awe on their faces. Although he is his own brother, he is also a human pillar force. Especially now, AI Luo, who is still a moody, psychopathic guy who needs to use killing to prove his existence value. Suddenly, Iroh, who was walking in the front, suddenly stopped. Huh? Raising his head, AI Luo turned his head slightly, looked at the woods on the side, with murderous intent flowing in his eyes, and an icy smile on his face. Here comes another little mouse. Bang! In an instant, a cloud of yellow sand flew out from the big gourd behind him, forming a shuriken and piercing towards a big tree hole. Bang bang! In the blink of an eye, the woods were bombarded. This sudden change made both Temari and Kankuro change their faces and looked at Iroh. I love Luo, what's wrong? But I didn't get any response from Iroh. After making a move, Luo, full of confidence, walked straight forward. At this time, click click. Unabashedly, the sound of footsteps came from the direction of Iroh's attack, causing both Temari and Kankuro to pale and make defensive moves. And my AI Luo's gaze was still full of cold killing intent, looking in the direction where the footsteps came. Oh. Natsuki put one hand on the handle of the knife, and appeared in front of the three people in an upright manner. It's you. Sandstorms, I love Luo, this strength is not bad, just a small sand shuriken is judged to kill me, are you too confident? The black power suit he was wearing was not messy at all, and Natsuki stood there like this, accompanied by the huge chakra oppressive force, as well as the terrifying murderous aura of the elite upper ninja level. It was like a heavy hammer, and it smashed Temari and Kankuro's heart. It's so powerful. Standing in the distance, Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl, who were watching this scene, both had twitching faces. Grunt. Taking a mouthful of saliva, Inuzuka opened his mouth and asked Hinata, Nah, Hinata, is your man too strong? The momentum alone makes people chill all over. Shino nodded approvingly. Friend, it's too strong to be words. Hearing his teammates' praise for Natsuki, Hinata's face was filled with a smile of Ayu. Xiaomukuen, he has always been very powerful. These words made Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl look slightly dark, gone for help. As long as it was a matter of Natsuki, Hinata had always reacted like this. Don't talk about them, even my Ailua, who is already very strong now, is frozen in the face of Xiaomu's huge oppressive force. It's just that after all, it's the human pillar force. AI Luo glanced at the stiff Temari and Kankuro, and stood directly opposite Natsuki against this huge chakra oppressive force. Staring at Natsuki, AI Luo's eyes were very cold, and the smile on his face gradually faded. Kill you. I love Luo with a twisted smile on her face. My value must be more reflective, right? It must be so. Hearing this, Natsuki nodded irrefutably. Want to try it? See if you can kill me. Bang. On my arrow's body, the huge chakra burst open, and a cloud of sand surrounds. That's a try. Natsuki nodded, looked at AI Luo with a serious face, and his right hand gently tapped on the hilt, and the thunder chakra on his body began to flow. Slowly raising his eyes, Natsuki's gaze looked at AI Luo. The next moment, shoot directly. Episode 40, Sting. A bolt of lightning rushed, and Xiaomu's figure, like a blue electric light, was directly in place, leaving an afterimage of thunder chakra galloping. The body instantly appeared in front of my arrow, and Natsuki directly raised his foot and kicked out. Boom. Thundered. This kick, with extreme speed and huge force, kicked my AI Luo's body. In the sand of my love Luo, before he had time to protect him, he directly kicked him out and slammed into a tree held by more than 10 people, shaking off a lot of leaves from this tree. Slowly retracting his feet, Natsuki's face was still very calm. It's too slow. Yikes. Natsuki's sudden appearance made Temari and Kankuro unexpected, and the moment they came back to their senses, they directly and quickly retreated, and their faces were shocked and they were about to stay away from Natsuki's surroundings. Seeing the movements of the two, Xiaomu's hands instantly froze, and the thunder chakra on his body flashed. Thunder, double thunder. Snap. The two hands pressed hard on the ground, and the two thunderbolts directly caught up with Temari and Kankuro's figures. Boom. Aha. In an instant, Temari and Kankuro, who were attacked by the ground, their bodies twitched and they let out a scream. Hand of sand. At this moment, a huge palm composed of sand slapped directly towards Natsuki. I love Luo's scarlet eyes, with monstrous killing intent, staring at Natsuki deadly. I want you to die. Bang. Facing this bombardment of the hand of sand, Natsuki's face had a smile on his face. Interesting. The hands were raised, and then they were pressed on the ground in an instant, and in this instant, Natsuki had already finished sealing. To Until wall. Boom. A heavy earthen wall rose directly on the ground, blocking Natsuki's face. The hand of sand blasted over, directly colliding with the earthen wall. Bang! The sand spread out all over the sky, and this hand of sand was directly shattered. Yikes! At this moment, two figures appeared in the air, both of them Natsuki. I saw two Natsuki imprinted at the same time, condensing the huge chakra. Fire dragon, fire art. Wind escape, big breakthrough. A huge fire dragon head bombarded directly towards my arrow, followed by a hurricane that blew on the fire dragon head. Bang! The two ninjutsu suddenly met in the air, and the already terrifying dragon fire technique, the power of which instantly increased by more than 2, as if it was devouring the heavens and the earth, bombarded towards I arrow. Seeing this terrifying attack, my AI Luo's face changed drastically, and he raised his hand sharply. Sand Mobo. The sand formed a huge ball, completely protecting my AI Luo in the middle of the moment. Bang! The fire dragon bombarded the ball fiercely, and instantly exploded, sweeping the surrounding trees and bushes directly. Humph. Smiling, Natsuki looked at the orb in the center of the flames. Roasted panda? On the other side, Temari, who had slowed down from Natsuki's thunder attack, saw this scene, and his face changed drastically. With a worried face, Temari opened his mouth and shouted, "I love Luo." Kankuro stood up, his eyes also worried, but his attention was more on Natsuki's body. With a move of his hand, Kankuro removed the puppet he had been carrying from behind him, and looked at Natsuki, who looked indifferent and like a great demon king, and did not dare to relax at all, and cold sweat fell on his forehead. Swish! Temari's figure instantly blocked in front of Kankuro, and the 3-star fan in his hand opened, and his eyes looked at Natsuki fiercely. "Kankuro, go see if there's anything wrong with my arrow." "He'd leave it to me." Hearing Temari's words, Kankuro spoke. "You're alone?" "No way. He is too powerful." Temari's figure was slightly low, and he said coldly, "Kankuro. I love Luo more importantly." Gritting his teeth, Kankuro cautiously stepped back and turned around to head towards the round ball on the side. Cell phone. Sting. A sound of breaking wind and thunder electricity sounded, and Natsuki's figure instantly appeared behind Kankuro. I said, "You too, aren't you too confident?" Natsuki's icy voice sounded. "What?" Kankuro turned around in disbelief, but what he saw was a big footboard, which smashed hard into his face. Boom! With just such a glance, Kankuro's figure was directly kicked and flew out, hit a big tree fiercely, and finally fell to the ground, and after moving, he directly passed out. Syllable. After solving Kankuro, Natsuki's body spun and threw it directly on Temari's stomach. Whoosh boom. The same was kicked and flew, the handbow smashed on the ground, and after rolling out for a short distance, he stopped, and he also couldn't get up in a short time, so he lay on the ground like this, raised his eyes and looked at Natsuki. But damn it. Syllable. Throwing the earth scroll that he got from Temari's ninja bag in his hand, a satisfied smile appeared on Natsuki's face, turned around and left. Xiaomu didn't intend to kill the 3 of my Ailua. Not only did I get the earth scroll, but I also got 3 purple cards, which was enough. In the distance, both Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl looked at the battle that had ended with a shocked expression. Too strong. At this moment, the two of them really understood what a real strong person was. Although the battle seemed to take a lot of time, but in the eyes of the 3 people of the 8th class, the entire battle began and then ended, and the total time spent was less than 2 minutes. Soon, Natsuki had already arrived in front of the 3 members of the 8th class. Seeing Inuzuka and Shino with a dull look, Natsuki was slightly stunned. "What's wrong? Any questions?" Taking a mouthful of saliva, Inuzuka looked at Natsuki and spoke. "Natsuki, you guy, it's really like a monster." Hearing Inuzuka's words, Shino reached out and patted him on the shoulder and spoke. "Tooth, be confident, remove the word like, this guy is a monster." Hearing this, Natsuki shook his head and smiled, and spoke. "I got the scroll I needed, let's go. Go to the center tower." Swish. As soon as his figure moved, he left directly in an instant, and Hinata also quickly followed Natsuki. Inuzuka and Shino the oil girl naturally followed quickly, and the mess left here, the 4 of Xiaomu, naturally will not care. It's just that basically the 3 of Temari will have nothing to do, because they are already very strong compared to the candidates. Not long after Xiaomu and the others left, the big snake pill that had just rushed over from the 7th class came over here. Looking at this messy battlefield, as well as the 3 of Miailua who were helping each other to leave, Orochimaru's face showed a gloomy smile. Recalling the awakening that the medicine master had mentioned to him, the big snake pill spoke. "Friend Xiaomu, maybe a good seedling."